Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. The CDC reported over 81,000 overdose deaths for the 12 months ending in May of 2020. That's a tragic scenario, but here to help us understand what's going on, I am delighted to be joined by the DEA Special Agent in Charge, Bill Bodner. So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
That is that's the most reported deaths from drug overdose that has ever been in a 12-month period in the United States. What is going on?
It's troubling. The root of this problem was 15 years ago, Maria. We started with an opiate epidemic that was really driven by prescription drugs. And there was a very small percentage of medical practitioners who, quite frankly, were unethical. And they prescribed drugs without medical necessity, and it was based on greed. That's what was the driving factor. Unfortunately, we developed addiction. Opiate drugs are extremely powerful, extremely addictive. We developed this group of people that had an addiction, and then as we learned what we could do better, as we cut down the number of prescriptions, but what's happened? We have these people that are addicted, and they've turned to the black market to get prescription drugs. And unfortunately, these black market prescription drugs contain fentanyl. And that's what we see playing out on the streets, and that's what's killing people in our community. It's fentanyl, it's extremely deadly, and it's in almost all of the counterfeit prescription drugs that are changing hands on the streets today.
Okay, so let's talk about fentanyl, because as you said, that's literally the most, that's the drug that is killing the most amount of people when it comes to drug overdose.
Fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than heroin, and it's available in a little pill that looks like a prescription drug that some of us have taken legitimately. So there's no fear of it. People are not afraid to experiment with it. And that's why we're seeing the tremendous destruction from fentanyl and all these overdoses.
And the amount required to actually kill you is minuscule.
Tiny. It could be 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams could be enough to kill you. And in these pills, the dosing is very inconsistent. So even if you knew what the drug was, which many times people don't, they think it's something else, but even if you knew what it was, it's still so dangerous to take because you don't know the dose. You may think, I tolerated this pill before, but the dose now could be 80% more in the same pill.
With the expansion of online services, we're all used to there's lots and lots and lots of legitimate sites in which you can get prescription meds, but there's a proliferation of those that are, is it expanding? Is it coming in online, or is this a street thing, or where is it coming from?
So earlier I said to get heroin, you had to go to a part of town that was perhaps high crime, right? Imagine now you could have a 14, 16-year-old at home with a smartphone, can go online to an online marketplace or social media app, and I have my phone set to alert me when a new ad goes up. So I see new ads go up literally every day for these drugs. You can go online, you can order it, have it delivered to your house, and you can pay for it using an online payment thing and not have to leave the house. That's what the danger is. So we have young people, teenagers, buying drugs on social media sites, and let's be honest, they're being victimized, right? They're being victimized. There's children being victimized by these dealers doing this. The parents don't know that this is going on, and the drugs are being delivered right to the house.
Legitimate prescription drugs. Twice a year, the DEA sponsors what is called, take back, and that's obviously something that is also needs to be addressed. People have meds in their house, and if somebody no longer needs them and they have an excess of them, that is a problem as well.
It is. As I said, if there's one thing that I hope we learned in the early days of the opiate crisis, it is that whether we're talking about a national scale or the micro scale right in our own homes, excess drugs can lead to recreational drug use, and that can lead to addiction. There was a time around 2010, 2011, where we spoke with heroin addicts, and we said, how did you find yourself addicted to heroin? These are people in treatment. How did you find yourselves addicted to heroin? What path did you go down? 4 out of 5 times, it was prescription drugs where it started. The light went off with DEA. We said we need to do something preventive. We need to get these excess drugs that are in people's homes, have them disposed of properly and safely, and remove that risk factor. I think there's a couple things I stress with people about prescription drugs in the home. First is, of course, it goes without saying, When you're prescribed a drug, take it as prescribed by the doctor, right? But if that prescription is as needed for pain, hold yourself accountable and make sure that you're taking it as needed for pain, that you don't become a recreational user. That can lead to disaster. The Centers for Disease Control tell us that if you take a 10-day course of an opiate painkiller, there's a 50% chance that you'll still be taking the drug a year later and that you'll be addicted to the drug. So that's why we've seen doctors now cut what used to be those 30-day, 10-day courses of painkillers down to 5 and 3 days, because that reduces the risk exponentially. But what I would tell people is safely dispose of the drugs that are in your home. If there's drugs that you can't dispose of, think about where you're storing them and how you're storing them. It's unfortunate, but we have people in our homes all the time. We think we know them. Some of them we don't know. Maybe our children have friends in. They check the medicine cabinets. They look in the medicine cabinets, they see what's there. It could be a contractor that's in your house to do some work, checking your medicine cabinet to see if there's free prescription drugs there. So do something to protect the drugs that you do need and that you are taking. Maybe it's something simple like a little steel box the size of a shoebox with a 3-digit combination, and you can keep it in your kitchen cupboard. Something over just leaving those bottles in the medicine cabinet. And I think with those two things, we can really be a little more preventive and stop the problems before they start.
DEA has several projects. What are these things, and how do they fit into getting the word out about protecting people from drug overdose or from even becoming, a victim of something?
So it's interesting, when I describe what our mission at DEA is to people, many times they're surprised to hear what I say. A lot of times people will confuse the tools we use or the strategy we employ with our actual mission. Our mission is simple: drug harm reduction, right? That is our mission. And that doesn't just come through law enforcement, through making arrests. It comes through education. It comes through reducing the demand for these drugs. I really think that a lot more needs to be done in these areas, especially with the counterfeit prescription drugs, where there's going to be such a benefit from letting people know that these aren't the drugs they think they are. There's a lot of mileage there. A lot of good comes of that. So that's what we decided at DEA, is we need to be a little more holistic and to really evaluate and see where we can add value throughout the different areas to really try to reduce drug harm across the board.
Let's bring it down to a more manageable level, in that it's also really important, I would think, for adults to communicate with children, teachers to communicate with students, parents to communicate with their kids. So what are some of the messages that are appropriate to share with young people who, this is something that they may not even be cognizant of or aware of? What information would you want to be able to start the conversation with?
I mean, the first general message, right? The general message that I would say to all children is find something in life that you're passionate about, right? Don't let drugs distract you from that passion, and don't ever let drugs become your passion. Then to parents, I would say, be nosy. I hate to say it, but be nosy. Don't make the assumption that, especially with these counterfeit pills, that your children's friends don't know about them, or your child doesn't know about them, or they're not in the school where your child goes. These discussions go on amongst our children all the time. Interject yourself into that conversation. So monitor what your children are doing and don't feel the least bit guilty about it.
I'm glad you told us all of this. It's incredibly terrifying, but it's also incredibly important to get this information out there. So thank you. And if people want to learn more about what's going on and what's happening with the DEA and how they can be more aware and alert, and all the tools that you provide, what's the best thing?
The best thing you can do, you follow us on Twitter here in Los Angeles at DEA Los Angeles, and our website is DEA.gov, and it will have everything on there that you need with regards to DEA. You can navigate it and find whatever information you're looking for.
Well, keep up the good work, Special Agents. Really, really fascinating to talk to you, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on this LA Current.